This video is going to be dealing with basic percentages, and then the second part will be how we can use percentages to solve problems. So the word percent means out of 100 or divided by 100. 50% would be 50 out of 100. P% would be P out of 100. 100% would be 100 out of 100, or 1. And an example where there's more than 100%, like 350%, would be 350 over 100, which is 3.5. We're going to learn how in the next slide to convert from percents to decimals and decimals to percents. And there's a nice chart of just common percentages. They don't have to be memorized, but are definitely helpful. So to change a percent to a decimal, you're going to drop the percent symbol, and then you're going to move 2 places to the left. So it's always 2, either 2 to the left or 2 to the right, depending on where you're going. So for part A, which I'll do down here, 35%, we drop the percent symbol, move 2 to the left, 0.35. 2%, we drop the percent symbol, 2 to the left, 0.02. 125%, 2 to the left, 1.25. 12.5%, drop the percent symbol, 2 to the left, 0.125. And 0.3%, 2 to the left, 0.003. So the way that I always tell people is the letter D comes before P in the alphabet. So from percent to decimal, you're moving to the left. Now, the other way would be going from decimal to percent, which would be 2 to the right. So 45% here. 2 to the right would be 112% here. 2 to the right here would be 3.4%. And 2 to the right here would be 0.4%. This is just a little exercise in changing fractions into decimals or changing them into percentages. So I'll just fill in whatever we don't have. So if we already have a reduced fraction, I'll give you the percent and the decimal. If we have a percent, I'll give you the fraction and the decimal, so on and so forth. So for the first one, and again, you can use your calculator to help you here. This would be the same as 0.4, moving 2 to the right, 40%. I'm just going to work my way across. This is 0.66 with a bar on top. So this would be 66.6 or 7%. Again, moving 2 to the right. This would be 69 over 100 as a fraction and 0.69 as a decimal. This would be 30 over 100, which reduces to 3 over 10. So that's your reduced fraction. 0.3 as a decimal when you move 2 to the left. 4 over 9, if you put in your calculator, would be 4 with a bar over it, or 44.4% when you move 2 to the right. This would be 425% as a percentage, just moving 2 to the right. This would be 4 and 25 over 100 because you'd want to write this as a improper fraction into a mixed number, 4 and 1/4. 20 over 100 as a fraction, 1/5 reduced, 20% when you move 2 to the right, decimal to percent, 125% when you move 2 to the right, 1 and 25 over 100. Sorry, a little lag in my pen for some reason, which would be 1 and 1/4 reduced. 7 over 5, if you put in your calculator, is going to give you 1.4, which is also 1 and 2/5. 140% when you move 2 to the right. So again, these are just nice little exercises converting from one to the other. 0.85 would be 85 over 100. That does reduce by 5 to 17 over 20, or 85%. 5 over 8, when you put that in your calculator, is 0.625. Again, moving 2 to the right, that would be 62.5%. 4 over 3, which is 1 1/3, is a repeating decimal. It's going to be 1.33, or 133.3 with a bar over it percent. Remember, the bar over the number just tells us that it's a repeating decimal. 150% can be written as 150 over 100, which is going to be 150 over 100, or 1.5. And if we move 2 to the left, that would be 1.50, or 1.5 as a decimal. 44 can be written as 0.44 when we move 2 to the left. 44 over 100, which if we divide the top and bottom by 4, we get 11 over 25. And then finally 0.6. So this one's kind of hard to write as a fraction. I'll write it anyway. You can write this as 66 over 100, even though the 6's go on forever. But this would really just be 66.6%. So you have a couple of homework problems that you guys can practice that. Now, whenever we are solving these problems, the easiest way to solve would be to just set it up as we see. So some key words to remember. The word of in math means to multiply, so we use the dot. The word is in math means, I should really write means instead of equals, because it means equals. So if you look at this example, 30% of 60 can be found by changing the percent to a decimal, moving 2 to the left, times 60, which equals 18. So I'll demonstrate down here. 25% can be written as 0.25. The word of in math means to multiply, 12, and that would give us 3. So 25% of 12 is 3. 0.125, so these have to be converted into decimals. Of, so times 16, would equal 2. 1.5 times 300 would equal 450. 0.05 times $13.80, so we're going to see some problems involving money in a little while, will be 0.69, so 69 cents. And 0.001, so notice every time I move my decimal to the left too, of 1,000 equals 1. So again, just translate percent times the number. This is another example, so now we want to find what percent of 20 is 30. So again, you're just going to convert this into a little equation. So when we don't know what something is in math, we call it x. So in this case, what percent would be x of 20 equals 30. Now, you should have your knowledge of basic equations. In order for us to find the value of x, we're going to divide both sides by 20. And we get x equals 1.5. Now remember, that's the decimal equivalent, so we would have to swing our decimal place out too to convert into a percent. Because remember, these equations work on the basis of the percent being in a decimal. What is 0.35 of 80? So remember, the word of means multiply. And that's going to give us 28. 45% of what is 9? So again, we're going to divide by what's in front of x. This knowledge is knowledge you should have already. And we get 20. I think I skipped something, so I'm just going to go back. I definitely did. So I'll just fill these in. Again, the concept is the same. So in this case, you're now solving for the percent. So again, 3 is what percent of 12? You want to get x by itself. So you're going to divide both sides by 12. And we get x equals 0.25. Now that's the decimal equivalent. So the percent would be 25%. So you kind of got a little idea of that in the last slide. This is another way you can set it up, but I kind of like just dealing with the equation aspect, so I'm going to stick with that. So 12 is what percent of 60? Again, let me write this out a little better over here so we have a little more space. So again, I want to get x by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by 60, and I get x equals 0.2, which is 20%. Okay, so remember, when you get that decimal, you got to change it to a percent if it asks. Sam hits 4 out of 10 times at bat. What percent of the number of times at bat did Sam get hits? So in this case, because he got 4 out of 10 times at bat, you might want to consider using this setup. It's the part, which is 4, out of the whole, times 100, which gives us 4 over this is going to be 2/5, and that would give us 40%. Same thing here. So the part is 25, because he has to answer 25 out of 40 correct, times 100, and we get, now this I believe gives us a decimal, 62.5%. His monthly rent is $20.70 out of a total of $4,600. So that's the part over the whole. And remember, we want to convert to a percent. So multiplying by 100 moves us 2 to the right. That's why that multiply by 100 is there. And that would be 45%. So these percent problems are pretty much straightforward if you're careful enough. Going back to this slide, suppose you bought something that was priced at $6.95 and the total bill was $7.61. What is the sales tax rate in this city? So the first thing we would need to consider is what's the tax. So tax is always the final price minus whatever the cost was. And that would give us 66 cents. From there, we know that the tax is the percent of the item, I guess, price. So this $6.95. So 0.66 is what percent of $6.95. So we're trying to find out what tax rate this is. We want to divide to get x by itself. X is going to be 0.095, which to convert that to a percent, we move 2 to the right, 9.5%. So here's another example for you to try. Find the tax rate on an item that costs $19.59 if the bill was $21.43. So we want to find the amount that the tax is. And that's going to give us $2.84. Was it $19.59 or $18? Let me just check that with my calculator because I have, so $21.43 minus $19.59, $1.84. Again, that's your tax. So the tax, oops, sorry, this pen goes a little crazy at times. Is what percent of the price? So the tax would be $1.84 is what percent of the $19.59 item. Divide to get x by itself. and we get 0.00, so we'll just go 0.93, which is 9.3%. A little more practice involving the percentages. I just like to give you guys some mixed problems to try. Again, you can use this setup or the setup I showed you, so I'll go with the setup I showed you. So 40% would be 0.4 of a number. We don't know what the number is. We want to divide by what's in front of x to get x by itself. X will be 250. 15% of a number is 9.6. Again, you're going to divide by what's in front of x, so I'm just going to do that over here. So 0.15 divided by 9.6, and you would get, oh, I'm sorry, other way around, sorry guys. It would be 0.15x equals 9.6, so we're dividing 9.6 by 0.15. Should have given myself some more space here. And here we get 64. The rent is 30% of the monthly salary. So if the rent is $1,500, we're going to divide both sides by 0.30, and we get $5,000. Okay, so again, just similar setups. Apple's 2015 revenue was $233 million compared to Walmart's $482 million. So we want to express the first number as the percent of the second number. So the first number is 233, and you can leave it as 233 because the million is the same as the million there, over 482. Now remember, this is a part over a whole, so, or the first number over the second number, so if you want to add the times 100, you don't have to do the moving two places at the end, 48.3%. In 2015, there were 61 million Americans under the age of 15 and a total of 321 Americans. So again, because they're both 321 million Americans, because they're both in terms of million, we can use similar setup. Again, if you want to throw the times 100 in there to not have to move at the end, you can. 19%. So this will be the second part in the next video. I'm going to post this as two so you guys can focus on one end and then the other.